Hello, everyone. JDev has returned once again to give you exactly what you want, which, of course, would be another episode of me talking Cubs, episode number 2. In the first episode, we went over the guys the Cubs could potentially move to open up some salary and what I thought about that. In this episode, which is the second episode, I want to go over the guys the Cubs potentially could acquire in the offseason, guys the Cubs have been linked to. But before I do that, let's kind of recap players that have signed players that have signed this offseason. Not everybody, of course, but the big ones in case you were sleeping or under a rock or something like that. So the Washington Nationals re-signed Steven Strasburg and Howie Kendrick. A lot of rumors Strasburg was going to the Padres. I didn't think that was going to happen, and lo and behold, he went back to the Nationals. Howie Kendrick was the guy the Cubs were linked to, but didn't happen. Re-signed with the Nationals. Mike Moustakas signed with the Cincinnati Reds, a 4-year deal. So the Brewers will lose a guy, and the Reds gain a guy. Makes the Reds lineup even more potent than it already is. Congratulations to the Moose. I don't know if I would have won 4 years with him. The Philadelphia Phillies are rumored today to have signed Didi Gregorius for a 1-year, $14 million contract. A guy the Brewers were potentially linked to, so that's good that the Brewers didn't get him. The Chicago White Sox signed Yasmani Grandal, another guy the Brewers had, now making the White Sox better than the Brewers. Not as good. And last but not least, the Cubs, unfortunately, weren't able to re-sign Cole Hamels, which I didn't think they were going to anyway, unless he would have signed for a very, 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 very bargain deal. Cole Hamels signed a contract with the Atlanta Braves for 1 year. So those are just some of the names that have signed or re-signed. The Cubs have made a few moves, getting Jarrell Cotton and Dan Winkler. A couple minor moves. But let's talk about the players the Cubs are linked to that are bigger names, either by trade or via free agency. So the number one move we keep hearing every year, and this kind of makes me think of the Brian Roberts, Jake Peavy situation, where every year those two guys were rumored to be a member of the Chicago Cubs, and they never, ever became members of the Cubs. And that, you all know, is Whit Merrifield. Good player. He's a second baseman / outfielder that can lead off. Hits really good. He puts the ball in play. He'd be nice to have. But the problem is the Kansas City Royals asking price is very high for that guy. I'm all for going after him, but if we have to send Ian Happ, if we have to send Nico Hoerner, I'm not for that. I don't want to give up any of our top prospects. So you stay away from the top 15 prospects. Now, if they want a guy or two down in the 20s to 30s, depending on who it is, I'd be okay with that. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be a fit just simply due to the Royals asking price. And I think there's other guys the Cubs could acquire that might not cost as much, and you don't have to give up the farm system for them. So another player that the Cubs are linked to, and I think this is potentially going to happen. I think, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing the name, but Shogo Akiyama, the Japanese player who's a center fielder that steals bases, hits for average, and leads off. I think he would be a good fit, and they're talking like a 3-year, $24 million contract for him, which you're looking at about $8 million per year. Obviously, these moves pay on the fact that the Cubs can shed some salary, because apparently they don't have any money and they need to shed salary. But I would be okay with that as long as we don't have to give up anybody. If all we have to do, well, we're going to have to give up somebody. I'm okay if they trade Contreras or Hayward. I said from the go, the Cubs have a lot of catchers in the system right now, and Caratini looked good, and Hayward, he's not worth the $21 to $23 million that we've got to pay him in the future. So I would try to get those guys off the team. I'm okay with Quintana leaving, like I said in the last video, and the Chris Bryant. I don't want to see Bryant go by any means. But if we can get a major league ready prospect and like 3 other prospects, maybe to the Braves, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that would be the easiest way to get rid of salary and get a lot back, depending on, of course, of how many years Bryant has left, whether it's 1 year or 2 years. But they're still going over that grievance that Bryant filed or Scott Boras filed. So Whit Merrifield, I think that's a no, just because the Royals' asking price is astronomical right now. Shogo Akiyama, I would like it. I think we could do it. 3 years, $24 million, maybe even 3 years, $18 million or something like that. That would be nice. I think the Cubs were linked to Gerrit Cole at one point in time, and that's who everybody else is looking after right now. I don't see it happening. I don't want them to spend $30+ million on a pitcher. I mean, Strasburg just signed for 7 years, $245 million. Gerrit Cole's going to be in the $300 million range, and that's all we need is a pitcher on our books for that long. So I don't know. Anybody that wants Gerrit Cole, I'm sorry to say, but I would be very shocked if it happened. Now, unless the Cubs, it's a sign and trade where the Cubs can get rid of Hayward, Tyler Chatwood, and Chatwood's a free agent after this year anyway. Lester's a free agent. Well, the Cubs have an option on him. Quintana's a free agent after this year. But yeah, Hayward and maybe I don't know. He's really the only long-term contract that I'm upset about right now because he just simply hasn't produced. He's owed $21 to $23 million the next 4 seasons, and all he's really done with the Cubs is gave a speech during the rain delay, very important speech, might I add. But I don't know. He's shown improvements, but it's not consistent improvements. Improvement here and there, and then slumps. So we'll see what happens. But hey, why don't you guys? Oh, another player the Cubs are linked to, which I don't think is going to happen due to their money situation, is them re-signing Nick Castellanos. I would like them to bring him back, but at this point, unless the National League all of a sudden goes to the DH, which would be great, I don't see Castellanos coming back to the Cubs. He's either going to go to the White Sox or the Giants, I think. But it would be nice. He wouldn't really cost that much, maybe $14 million a year, and if we can shed some salary again. But at this point, I would focus more on younger prospects that might be coming up, like a Brendan Davis, and trying to get rid of Jason Hayward's contract and maybe playing Ian Happ more on a regular basis going forward. So those are my thoughts. Why don't you leave your thoughts? Obviously, if you're a Cub fan, you're watching this video, leave a logical free agent or acquisition the Cubs could potentially get. And I'll definitely comment and give you my thoughts. And let's discuss this because there's a lot to discuss going forward. So I hope you guys enjoyed the second edition of Talking Cubs. And of course, J-Dub will be back again soon with another. Peace.